Bottoms, by the way, from Ag in the Classroom. Before we get to Ag in the Classroom and to Mandy, I wanted to show you something about asparagus, one of the 3 things of spring. How do you store asparagus, right? The easiest way, cut off the very bottom, just like you would your roses or your bouquet of flowers. Put them into a mug of water. That goes into the refrigerator. This spear of asparagus I've had for more than 10 days. Look how fresh they look. Oh my goodness. That's how you store them. But we're not going to store them. We're going to make them into boats.
That's right.
Mandi Bottom, thank you so much for being with us today. Ag in the Classroom, that's been around a long time. What is Ag in the Classroom? Some people may not know what it is.
Yeah, Ag in the Classroom, our job is to make it really easy for teachers and students to learn about where their food comes from. So we do that through a variety of different ways, but you know, a lot of students don't know that their food comes from farms and ranches here in California. They just see it at the grocery store.
Yep.
So our job is to help teach them the history behind that food, where it comes from, and how it gets to them.
That is so cool. So we're going to make a raft out of these, just for the kids.
Yes.
So how are we going to make a raft out of our spears?
This is one of the activities. We try to get students to engage with their food, even if it's just playing with them, because that's the first step to them
hands-on,
tasting it, trying it, and being open to it. So what we are going to do today is we are going to have students make boats or rafts out of their asparagus. So
I love that.
Super easy to do. You take your asparagus. We suggest a grown-up does this part. And they wash it under running water, which we've already done. And then what you're going to do is, most of you already know this trick, but if you're trying to find the most tender part of the asparagus, you can practice snapping it. And usually wherever it breaks is where you get the tougher part to come off. And then once you get a spear, this one's pretty long, so we can go ahead and cut that in half so that you have lots of pieces that are, 3 to 4 inches long. Here's the fun part. I think the best part is giving the students or the kids the materials and letting them do it their own way.
So just simple toothpicks.
Give them the asparagus spears, give them the toothpicks, and say, let's make some boats or rafts together.
Okay, let's make a raft. Go ahead.
And as you're making the raft, it is an opportunity, if you're a teacher, to talk about if you were on a raft, where would you want to go?
Oh.
Do you have any ideas where you would go?
I'd go to the South Pacific. It's warmer down there.
That sounds nice this time of year. You can talk about, who would you want to take with you? What would you take? And I'm doing it kind of a grown-up way that's not very creative, but you might be amazed at some of the different ways the students can figure out how to make a boat or a raft out of asparagus spears. So much more creative, and then we get old and maybe not so creative.
And look at this one here. We even put a sail on that raft. That is very, very cool. So the kids can be very, very creative. So when you're done with that, you put them on a baking sheet.
Before we bake it, we're actually going to see a little science, science and engineering skills.
Okay.
Will these rafts float?
Oh, let me get you some water here.
And it's nice for students to say, okay, do you think this one's going to float? Do you think that one's going to float? And maybe
we have our lake here.
So they can take their rafts and they can just put them in water.
Oh, look at that.
We got one to float.
They do float.
A fun extension activity, if you have like some small produce items like a nut or a cherry or an olive, you can put it on top and see if it can even carry something.
I love that.
Now this one might not be as successful just because it's a little top heavy, but it's a great time for kids to see, oh, what happened? Why do you think the top is floating more than the back? There can be some learning that happens there too. So once they've all had a chance to float their asparagus, that's when they get to do the baking part.
All right, and so we're going to put a little olive oil on here. We're going to put them in the oven.
That's right.
And we've already baked some for you. We put them in at the beginning. Here we go, here we go. And now the kids get to eat that right there. That is awesome. There's so much we can learn about Ag in the Classroom. What's the website?
Oh yeah, of course. I've got to share that. It's learnaboutag.org. So that's where we have all of our resources. They are all free for parents, teachers, anyone who wants to teach their young person about where their food and fiber comes from.
And they have so many terrific things on their website. It is fantastic to go on there. I even go on there at times and learn so much. So if you're a kid, if you're a grown-up, if you're homeschooling, perfect for you. Thanks so much for being with us, Mandy.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with